Hello and welcome to another episode of Where Everybody Has Gone Before. You know the deal. There's a lot of episodes of Star Trek. We spin a wheel, we watch an episode of Star Trek. I'm your host, Laura. I'm here as ever with my lovely co-host, Jeffrey. How are you doing?
I'm not too bad, Laura. Though I think we do need to make a correction that this is a Star Trek discussion podcast. This is rapidly becoming a Deep Space Nine discussion
Look,
podcast.
we can't control that this wheel really likes Deep Space Nine.
Yeah, I mean, I can't blame it, but
I I
yeah,
pointed
the
at
fates are handing us
exactly.
goodies.
I pointed out to you just before we started recording that this is out of like 1,000 episodes of Star Trek we've had. We're what? I think this is like maybe our ninth podcast, and we've already had two neighboring episodes through random chance that are like. This is the episode that comes after Facets, the one we talked about where Dax met all of the past Dax bodies. Um, so yeah, we're slowly going to fill out season three. Part of me is convinced the wheel's just going to give us all of season three of DS9.
Well, it's not just that. It's like we haven't really touched on like the very beginning of Star Trek. The earliest we've
Yeah.
been is season 5, The Next Generation, and we've not apart from Prodigy, we've not rolled anything in the kind of
Yeah,
the back end of it.
we've not had any Strange New Worlds or any the cartoon animated one that I keep forgetting, the Lower Decks. We've not had original series. There's so much we could have, but the universe is like, no, no, no. Laura needs convincing that Deep Space Nine is the best Star Trek. We're gonna keep throwing it at her.
Well, I'm not 100% sure that season 3 is
No,
what's going to convince you, but it's
it
it's
is.
it's
It's
still
good.
pretty good gear.
It's pretty good Star Trek. I can't
Yeah.
deny it's pretty good Star Trek. So yeah, this is episode 371 of Star Trek, season 3, episode 26 of Deep Space Nine, The Adversary. It's another. It's kind of an Odo episode. It's not centered around Odo, but it's setting up big, long-running Odo plot threads.
Yeah, I mean this episode may as well have been called groundwork because there's about 6 or 7 different things it's setting up that are going to
Yes.
pay off eventually. I don't know how much of it's deliberate, but there's certainly a lot of groundwork it's laying for things that are going to pop up in the next 2 or 3 seasons.
Yeah. And this is by no means the most original sci-fi plot this episode. Like I think you can this is the archetype of a sci-fi story that is, oh no, there's a shapeshifter among us. We don't know who the shapeshifter is. People are going to get occasionally like, oh, we're going to buddy system, but we're going to get split up. We don't know who the shapeshifter is. It's a tried and true formula. It's a pretty good one of those. I like
I mean
this as a one of those.
it, it's so tried and true that we literally have that no, he's the shapeshifter moment in it. I mean, we possibly have 2 of those, except that they turn it around a bit. One of them is like, I'm not the shapeshifter, and neither am I. But like, there's a lot of cliche in this one, and
Yeah.
I don't mind that, but it is
Mm.
notable that you do genuinely get that kind of Spider-Man meme
Yeah.
uh, later in the episode. But
What
yeah,
one
it's a decent episode. I think
yeah.
it's like I said, I think it's doing a lot of work for the future.
One thing that I think this episode does interestingly, I was ready to give this episode less credit than it deserved. There is an obvious red herring character that is like you're supposed to think is suspicious this whole episode. And you know what? I I fell for it. I did not remember this episode very clearly, and I was very willing to go, okay, so the obvious red herring is the villain. That obvious villain is the villain. No, no, okay, well done. You got me there, I guess, Star Trek.
Yeah, well, I think if you come into this knowing there's a changeling,
Yeah.
you can very easily guess who's going to be, let's say, the first iteration of the changeling.
Yeah.
But I think if you're coming into this relatively blind, it's it does a decent job of misleading you,
It gives a
despite
decent
despite
amount
the very
of
obvious
yeah.
not red shirt, but like
Yeah.
here's this random character that doesn't belong that's clearly going to
Yeah.
turn into something else.
I think it holds off on the changeling bit for long enough that like it gives you time to buy in and go, wait, was there a bunch of clues that I wasn't paying attention for? Because like so much at the start of this is not mundane as in like it's boring to watch, but it is routine Star Trek that like can kind of wash over you in a way that doesn't demand giving it like that kind of scrutinous attention. And I do think that's to its benefit that it doesn't play its cards too early.
Oh yeah, no, it's 100% like the first 10 minutes is typical get on a ship and go somewhere Star Trek. Like there's no, I think this is, and we'll talk about this as we get into the episode. But I think this is something that Deep Space Nine does really well. Is it gives you what you would expect from a Star Trek episode.
Yeah.
That is going to feel like a bit of a standalone. Oh, they're just going to go explore this thing, and then they manage to weave it into this overarching story, which I think is part of why the overarching story doesn't get tiring or annoying. But yeah, it 100% starts as get on the ship, go to a place, which is basically every episode of the Next Generation. So
we talked about this a little bit with the episode. It might have been the last one we recorded, where we talked about the one where they're having just like casual little chat on the Defiant, and then they get back and the spy has exploded. They're really good at starting Deep Space Nine episodes with like, don't think too much about this. This is just like adventure of the week. We're having a casual chill time until the plot happens, in a way that gets you to not overthink that starting position. They know that you won't overthink, oh, this is starting like a Deep Space Nine, and that they can play with your expectations a little from that.
yeah, they're really good at banter, aren't they? They're really good at just setting up that this crew is very close, not particularly formal.
Yeah.
You know, Jazzy is asking Cisco about his girlfriend. He's going to take her to watch some baseball in the holiday. I like how it's how we're skipping a little bit ahead, but I like how he sits and is going, I'm going to take her to the holosuite, and you're all going, oh, that's going to be like a weird sex thing, right? Because that's what the holosuites are in Deep Space Nine. He's like, to watch baseball. Yeah, right.
He leans into that knowledge of how it's viewed. He's like, yeah, I'm going to take her for a lovely time down the holodeck. Watching really baseball.
You know, when she gets back, I'm going to take her to the holosuite. Pause to watch the 1964 World Series, but baseball, whatever.
Yeah, and
like, all right, you're a nerd.
As much as like you said, like maybe season 3 is not going to be the one to win me over. Honestly, that was some of the moments in this episode that really won me over. Were like those really playful bits of writing where it's like we really understand the expectations and the baseline we've set up, and we can have characters acknowledge the status quo and joke about it in a way that I appreciate.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, like Castigates has barely been in this, right?
Yeah.
And yet it's still confident enough just to say you'll remember who Castigates is. We'll set up that you know they've been on a couple of dates.
Yeah, even if you don't remember, it's like he's got a long distance someone. Ooh.
Yeah. And he's just like, oh, I don't know where she is, and then everyone else already knows where she is. It's like, okay, well, that's actually kind of bad. You like, I assume Cisco's kind of feigning ignorance there, that he probably does know where she is.
A little bit, but like, also like, you know, life of a captain. He's busy. You know, they're working professionals.
Well, there's a good segue to the start of the episode, right?
Yeah,
because he's a captain now.
I did not realize he wasn't a captain before the end of season 3.
Yeah, I was surprised it took so long, but I suppose it makes sense because the beginning of season 4, I think, is when Worf turns up, because they had to bring him into because the ratings were a bit rough.
Yeah,
and he's definitely a captain by then. But I thought it would have been like season 2. I thought by the time he meets the Jem'Hadar, but
is the Defiant popping around from season 1, or does that come in a little later?
No, that's either. I think that's the beginning of season 3, because the last episode of season 2 is the Jem'Hadar, and I think it's that the ship is there
because that's what I hadn't put together.
The Jem'Hadar threat. Yeah,
that's what I hadn't put together in my head. Is I suppose the first couple of seasons he doesn't need to be a captain because he's not going and doing the away mission type Star Trek stuff. The Defiant gets introduced. He's got a season of being in control of away missions, and then they're like, okay, at this point we kind of got to raise him to the same status level as the other away ship captains that we've had in previous Star Treks.
I think the idea is that if you're in command of a ship, you have to be a captain.
Yeah.
And so that's what I do. I mean, I'm having to remember from December, but I do think there's a lot of season 3 which is them trying to fix the Defiant because it's a prototype ship. So there's a lot of O'Brien just in its guts. So there isn't a huge amount of necessarily away mission stuff, but it certainly rocks up. I think first episode of season 3. Like
Yeah.
he's not bald yet, but he's got the
Yes.
goatee. So like we're kind of in the interstitial period
The
between meeting the
transformation's
Jem'Hadar and then it
undergoing.
getting really like really really good, basically.
Yeah. Yeah, as we say, the start of this is him becoming captain, and we get like this ambassador shows up and gives us the episode of the week standard Star Trek plot. There's a coup d'etat happening on the Zenkathi homeworld. There's gonna be a power struggle, and we gotta send some ships there to like make sure they know whoever comes into power, the Federation's still keeping an eye, and like we'll keep the balance in the system. You gotta go and just like be a presence, showing them what's what. You know, it's a standard routine mission, nothing to overthink. But O'Brien knows something's up. He's getting weird, suspicious senses before the Defiant leaves. Ooh.
Well, can I just mention O'Brien,
Hmm.
because something I really appreciate in this coming back in 2026 is that, as you know, every episode thus far I've had a bit of a drive-by of Picard, and
Yeah.
I really like that O'Brien is sitting in this party they're having for Cisco for his promotion. He says, "Here's to the newest and the best captain in Starfleet." And I really appreciate that he is also having drive-bys of Picard at this point. 20, 30 years before I've even started.
That is. Now you pointed out that is a kind of wild thing for him to say, but yeah.
Well, because Eddington says it as well. He's like, "Oh, I agree with O'Brien," but like O'Brien served with Picard. It's like, all right,
Yeah.
mate. Like,
So yeah, they're going off to go do this fairly routine seeming mission, and O'Brien is like a very central character to this episode. He's doing his standard repairs on the Defiant, and he meets Julian Bashir in the vents. Not usually where you would find the Doctor. I've just connected up my new medical diagnostic console to the electrical grid. I didn't want to bother you. You're busy, and I did an extension course on electrical stuff once. Like, I want to put it to use. Um, and we get our first little hint of something being up. Brian noting that is suspiciously good work for just an extension course. Your little patch job you've done here in the tubes.
yeah, it's a really, it's like the biggest of initial red flags. Like,
Yeah,
like a big red herring-shaped flag
yeah,
of Bashir crawling around the Jeffries tubes, and they're called Jeffries tubes now. We're back.
yeah.
We're back on comfortable ground. My tubes are back.
It's interesting because it's like it's clearly suspicious, but Bashir is one of those characters that like I think is above suspicion at this point. Like fan beloved, everyone loves Bashir. No one's got any problems. The assumption is even if you've done something a bit suspicious, you must have had a good reason for it. How bad could it be? Until the idea of there's a changeling on board is introduced, and you go, oh no, that's a much bigger problem than the scope of anything that Julian being in the Jeffries tubes could have been.
Yeah, and I think that it's really good that that comes before we find out there's a changeling,
Mm,
right? We're already thinking, oh, that's a bit weird, but I guess it's Bashir, and he's very, very smart, and so there's every chance that he may well be doing engineering stuff.
yeah,
We may have even seen him do a bit of engineering before. But I really like that they set up the suspicion before there's something to be suspicious about,
yeah.
outside of the fact that obviously O'Brien's had a couple of moments where he's heard a little knock or a little tap.
It's
He's
like,
like, oh, what's that?
yeah, I could fully believe that like um there was a medical situation of some kind that like Julian's like, hey, look, I'm gonna do a thing that Starfleet says I shouldn't do, but it's for the good of a patient, so I'm gonna lie about why I'm in the tubes doing something electrical. Like, him doing something suspicious doesn't mean he's doing something morally wrong. And it's not until the reveal that comes where it's like, oh, that was a bigger problem going on back there.
Yeah, and so what comes next after that? Because I've been watching a Japanese drama in between. So,
um,
but are we not? Are they traveling to
yeah, that,
the Zen Cathy
yeah,
homeworld? And I believe that's when Cisco just is like, I haven't been here since the last Sunkethi Federation war. And it's really interesting that we do hear,
Hmm.
before we get to the war with the Dominion, that Cisco has been in yet another war. He was obviously like fighting the Borg at one point. But we
Yeah.
do get that tiny little bit of background that just falls away,
Yeah.
but is another thing we're gonna kind of helps us
Yeah.
understand why he's so good at what he does later
We
in
we
the
get a couple
series.
of interesting bits of character building like this on the journey, because it's around this time we also get him chatting to Eddington, the security chief, who, has been a little extra prominent this episode, a little suspicious, but he's having his whole like, I've always dreamed of being a captain, but you don't get to be a captain with a gold uniform talk, and like, even if that turns out it wasn't suspicious, shouldn't have been read as suspicious, it's an interesting bit of fleshing out to have a character admit a little bit of resentment for what they're good at on the ship is kind of interesting.
Yeah, so I didn't make any notes about that because I watched that again and I was like, oh, Laura's going to pick up on that. That's the sort of thing Laura picks up on.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's again, it's really interesting because obviously this whole episode is about everyone being suspicious of everyone,
Yeah.
but at the same time, laying down that little bit of Eddington is a little bit resentful of his
Yeah.
situation also sets up later in the series, spoilers, that he is basically the leader of the Maquis.
Yeah.
Um,
And that's the
and I
thing.
really like that.
Yeah.
That's the moments I really like about Deep Space Nine. We get these tiny little moments that are kind of just
Yeah.
throwaway in their episodes,
I
but then down the line you go, oh, hang on, he said that
Yeah.
thing
I don't know
back then.
how deliberate that is, but I do love the idea that they set him up to be suspicious, to have go, oh, that's a red herring. He wasn't suspicious. Actually, he was suspicious. It was just suspicion for a longer term thing that you weren't ready for.
Yeah, but also it doesn't feel too out of place because Eddington
Yeah.
is quite a forthright person throughout. He's not a frequent character. He's there enough, but in the episodes we've already seen him, he's a pretty upfront, forthright guy. And so
Hmm.
you don't, on one hand, you don't think, oh, he shouldn't be talking like this to his
Yeah.
captain. But on the other hand, you also get that little bit of, again, groundwork for what comes in
Yeah.
another season, another 2 or 3 seasons. It's
Yeah.
it's a lot of breadcrumbs in this episode
Mm.
that I really appreciated watching
Yeah.
it again.
And then we get the kind of the very fast paced, and I do appreciate how quickly this unravels. The reveal that something's going wrong on the ship. We start with a broken up distress call from Basara Prime. It seems like we're under attack. Oh, we've lost the call. The crew goes, look, we have to assume we are at war. Um, the comms have then been interfered with, so they can't interact with the Federation. They can't call for backup. Then O'Brien and Dax find the wires are like knitting themselves across the ship and force fielded over, and the ship is doing something to its systems. Then it's like, oh, this is a bigger problem. All of the command systems, comms, internal sensors, transporter, deflect shield, basically every critical system we're locked out of. And basically, the second that they realize they're locked out of all the systems is when it's like, okay, we've been rumbled. Ship's gonna go take itself and go start a war. Are you ready? It's happening. War's coming if you don't deal with this problem.
Yeah, well, I really like that it's in any other episode of Star Trek, generally they would take a moment to work out what's going on, but they're immediately like, no, this is sabotage.
Yeah.
O'Brien just knows. He's
Yeah.
like, I know these systems. Obviously, there's like these weird worm things. I've not put those in there.
Yeah.
This is sabotage, and they're immediately on it.
Yeah.
And I don't know if did they mention at the time that this must be a oh no, so they don't know it's a changeling yet, do they? Because they're like, we'll
No.
find traces of this
Yeah.
thing
They
on
don't
people.
they don't know it's a changeling, but they very quickly go, this has to be someone who's on board the ship, because this happened after we departed. There are only 47 of us on the crew. This whatever is happening is like, it's for a very clear goal, so we've got a motivation for it very quickly. And I do like that O'Brien doesn't shy away from admitting, like, look, he's my friend, but I falter for a half a second, but I will tell you, I saw Bashir in the Jeffries tubes. It was weird. I gotta be honest about that. I can't screw up the investigation by covering for someone that I trust.
Mm. And but it's also like basically at that point is also when Bashir sits there and says, "No, I wasn't in the tubes. What are you talking about?" Like that.
Yes.
So they say something along the lines of there'll be some sort of residue of he was mucking around in some sort of system that would leave a trace, and so we're going to scan everybody, and we're starting
There'll be
this kind of
tetrionic
pool of suspicion.
particles.
That's the one. Like
Tetrions.
that's oh god, that's such like comfortable Star Trek, isn't it? When
Yes.
um, and so they start scanning everyone, and there's like this big moment of oh we're gonna slightly worm our way around Bashir for a
Mm.
moment, and then we're going to scan Bashir. And if you're going into this blind, you're probably thinking, oh, they're going to get Bashir now. And then he's clear, and then he's like, oh no, what are you talking about, O'Brien? I was never in the tubes. And that's when they're scanning. You know, the one of these is not like the other
Yeah.
character that's rocked up, the ambassador.
Yeah.
And again, very quickly, it's just like, no,
Yeah.
oh, okay, he's got a little smirk, and he's off, and
Yeah. I
he's gel.
I do appreciate that they don't waste any time. They want to get as much of this episode as possible to be we one of you might be the suspect person and we can't trust each other. Um very quickly, one bit of characterization I really love that comes up a couple of times in this episode and shows up first in this scene is Kira being the first anytime there is suspicion, Kira is the first person to go, I know I know I didn't do it. Test me first. That repeatedly being the first one to put their hand up and go, yeah, no, please come and test me, um, is like a really consistent character trait in this episode, and I thought that was nice characterization. Um, but I also really like about it being a changeling. I think the one thing that really sets this apart from every other time it's done in sci-fi is the changeling, much like something like the video game Prey, the changeling could also be inanimate objects. And that I think's always a really fun twist is to go, it might not just be any one of us, it could be the table we're stood next to.
Yeah, I mean, like this. So they very quickly take the here's the typical episode and
Yeah.
change it into something else, and that's something that the changelings make really easy, which I really like. But it
Mm.
does, despite the fact they are constantly looking for a person, it does become just a massive game of prop hunt for like half an hour.
Yeah. And it's a fun game of prop hunt.
Yeah, I mean, but it's also like that's what I really like about it. It's very much like Agatha Christie in space.
Yeah.
It's like a locked room mystery of this could be any one of us, and so we're going to go do some investigating with our big phasers.
And I do really appreciate that they're very clear very quickly of like the parameters of we can't just solve this with the sci-fi MacGuffins. We can't just do a scan of the ship because like when Odo is a table, he shows up as a table on scans. We can't just solve it that way. Um, they're very clear about like what the time pressure that they're up against is. They're like, we are going at warp and we're cloaked and our weapons are up and we're flying towards a planet. It's very clear we're going to start a war. Like that distress call probably wasn't real. We've got until we reach that planet to either find the changeling or blow ourselves up to stop war. It contains the problem so neatly and like makes the parameters around it so clear. I think that's one of the biggest strengths this has.
Yeah, absolutely. There's no ambiguity about it. Like they're
Mm,
very, and I think I really like that about Cisco. He's always very clear on what's happening,
yeah.
and part of that is obviously the closeness of the crew, because they will all just speak up whenever. But I do like that he's just like, no, we're going to assume we're at war. Okay, now things are different because that might not have been real, but
Mm,
we are certainly on a course to the Zengathi home planet, and we're cloaked and weapons are up. We have to assume that we're just going there to start a war, especially now
yeah.
the changelings here. It becomes very obvious that that's kind of the subterfuge that the changeling is trying to incite is that driving probably at this point the flagship of the Federation
Yeah.
start war to destabilize the quadrant so the Dominion can rock up through. Well, yeah, the wormhole must be there by now. Like I
Yeah,
think
yeah,
it's been
it
there the whole
is.
time. But
Yes,
like
yeah.
so the Dominion can rock up to a slightly off kilter
Yeah.
Federation, which was already at war. Yeah, you're right. I really like the clarity of that. Um, I think it's really strong. I think what I really a moment I really like is when they're saying, "Oh, it's a changeling," and it pans to Odo's face, and like Rene Auberjonois' face acting there of both.
Yeah.
This is horrible, but also, oh, another one of my people finally is just really, really good. It's just
He gives a
it,
really solid performance in this episode.
he's a really good actor, Laura.
Yeah,
Like, I
both
say he was a really good actor,
yeah.
sorry, but
Both
yeah, he yeah.
yeah, both his acting and the script he's given, they give him so much to work with in this one. Because like one of the first like dedicated scenes we get with him in the second half of this episode, once we're in the game of Prop Hunt, is he has this really interesting talk about his relationship to being a security officer, where he's like, I'm gonna refuse to take a weapon. I take pride in the fact I have never fired a weapon or taken a life while working security, and I don't plan to change that now. He sort of extends that to his knowledge of no changeling has ever harmed another. I don't want to be the first. Um, Even if it puts himself at a degree of risk, he does take a lot of pride in being a security officer doesn't have to mean you are a violent armed police officer. And he wants to maintain as much of that as he can in security, and
Yeah, I mean,
I love that.
so much foreshadowing
Well,
and
yeah, of
groundwork in
course.
there, right? It's
Yeah,
like, but that also then leads into a conversation, another conversation he has with Eddington, where he's like, which also kind of sets up the suspicion and discrimination that Oda will start to face
yeah,
later as it becomes clear just how far the changelings have spread. Where Eddington's like, well, you know, if you were him, like, where would you go? Where would you be hiding? And Oda's like, I don't know anything about my people.
uh,
And you get this kind of like, and again, like Rene Auberjonois is just like, you get that sense of tragedy in that voice. That is like, firstly, he's like pushing back, but he's also like, mate, I don't know anything about my people, and I'd love to, but
yes.
this is not the
Just
situation
just
for
because
us.
I share a body with them does not mean I understand any of the cultural context I would need to tell you what they think.
Hmm.
They also
But then again, we also know that if it was Odo, he'd be like a beige bag because he's always a beige bag in Deep Space Nine.
There was a couple of points where they zoomed in on like a metal briefcase computer that could have opened up, and I was like, "That's exactly the kind of thing Odo would be. Odo would be
Yeah.
that computer handbag."
You'd think they already have that effect like
Yeah.
lined up, ready to go, which is might have been preferable because some of the CGI in this is a
Some of
little
the
bit
CGI
wonky,
in this is a bit bad. Yeah, we'll
but
get
it is the
there.
90s, so it's
It is.
fine.
I'll give it a pass. It's not the worst. It does the job.
Yeah.
But yeah, in the second half, I really appreciate how quickly they start setting up the reasons to be suspicious of people and like the that's awfully convenientnesses. O'Brien and Dax are working together, and Dax gets attacked and severely concussed, meaning O'Brien was the only one to witness that attack happen. Either of them could be suspicious now. Could we do something medically to wake Dax up and get some answers? Bashir's going like, look, we could, but like the neural stim could cause brain damage, so we should probably not risk it. But is Bashir just saying that because you're covering and you're suspicious? It starts giving like plenty of plausible people who might be the suspect in rapid succession, sometimes without like drawing too much attention to the fact they're doing it, and I think they do a really good job of that.
Yeah, there's no point where you're kind of sitting there going, "Oh, come on!" Like we know it's not like it's always,
Yeah.
"Oh yeah, we were separated for a minute, and it really could be the one." We're all acting in ways that we don't normally act because we're so suspicious.
Yeah.
Um, I do love that this episode is both brave enough and knows that we are trusting enough that they can make Bashir the problem for a second time.
Yes, yes.
Right? We already know that he was the changeling in the Jeffries tubes, and then
Yeah.
it's suddenly,
But
oh no, it's him again.
well, that's the thing. It's that there's no reason it can't be the same person twice. Just
Mm,
because someone already was suspicious doesn't mean they can't still be suspicious. But I also really like some of the scenes of just like growing distrust between the characters. Like okay, the pair of us have to stick together. Who's going in the Jeffries tube first? Because they're gonna have to have a gun pointed at their back by someone. All of these little micro Do I trust you as my teammate? Oh, they're beautiful.
Yeah, it sets everything up so beautifully that they because again, like everyone's paired with someone with whom they're not necessarily that familiar. Like that probably wouldn't work if Kira and Cisco were hanging out together because at this point they're very, very close.
Mm.
But because you've got like the Bolian guy and Kira, you can absolutely believe that they're both going to be sitting there going, I don't trust you. And I really like that Kira's just like Kira, who's been an insurgent for years, is just sitting there going, like, I am really glad that you don't trust me. That is the right
Yes.
answer.
Yes. But yeah, because there's Cisco has a little bit of a run in with the Changeling eventually, but then we get to this sort of like 5-person standoff of was it Cisco, Kira, and the Boolean, uh,
Odozo
Odo, and
and
Eddington.
Eddington, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
all just sort of all of us have been more than 60 seconds away from our teammate. uh,
I also really like that when they're doing the whole "it could be any of us" again, and Cisco's
yeah.
like, "It could even be me," and it's like, yeah, right, says he like again most situations this arises in, you wouldn't have someone saying that, but
Oh,
Cisco is perfectly willing to say like, we cannot you have to stop trusting everyone,
yeah.
and then
But
obviously
again,
Odo's
that
like,
would be a
but you're
perfect thing for
actually
the
bleeding.
changeling thing to do, is to be
Yeah.
like, it could be me. Well, you wouldn't have said that if it was you, so it's probably not you. But yeah, as you point
But
out,
but
yeah,
that's part of why the episode works as well, because the
yeah,
changeling knows so much about them. Like
yeah,
he is so embedded. It's not just, oh, it happens to be a shapeshifter. It's a
yeah.
shapeshifter who is very clearly a competent
Well,
spy who
it's
has learned
yeah.
everything about all of these characters.
It's demonstrated like really near the end when O'Brien's trying to pick between the two Odos that like, oh, you've learned enough about Odo and O'Brien's relationship to pretty convincingly answer security questions about the two of them.
Mm.
And yeah, I don't know if the crew at this point in the story really understands quite the level of threat they're facing in terms of if someone can get close enough to learn that much about you, it's really hard to detect that they're not them.
Yeah, well, I think they probably don't. A, because, not to skip too far, but there is obviously a an augury of things to come
Yeah.
at the end of the episode, but also their encounters. I'm not sure most of them have even encountered the changelings. They went to the changeling homeworld. That was mostly kind
Mm.
of Odo just meeting his people. There wasn't really this idea that so the changelings were very isolationist.
Yeah.
Everyone was kind of in prison at that point, so there's
Mm.
no. I don't think there is a
Well,
sense
they
among the crew that
yeah.
we know that they're here and they're going to
Mm.
be a major threat.
Well,
We're focused on the Jem'Hadar and the Vorta.
yeah. Well, I mean, Odo points out at one point, like, oh, I guess this other changeling is better than I am at perfectly replicating human faces. I guess that's a thing this one can do. It's not even having the realization of, like, some of them can do that undetectably. Yeah, it sort of reminds you quite how little understanding they have of the changelings at this point.
Mm.
The idea that they
Well, it's
could
also
just be
because
amongst you was not really
yeah,
on their radar.
well, it's also because they have no test for it, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
So like down the line, you get the tests,
yeah,
and again, a lot of groundwork is laid here with, oh, Cisco, you're bleeding, and oh, by the way, when changelings bleed, it turns back into like goo.
yeah,
Um, so they are completely unprepared for this threat, and I think that's another way the way this works really well is that the changelings are so prepared,
yeah.
and certainly this ship at Broadly Starfleet are not prepared at all for
And
the idea that the changelings could get involved in this
yeah.
conflict.
And this plan so easily could have worked for the changelings, because the only
Mm.
reason this plan falls apart is some unlucky timing on Julian breaking out of his room, because like we
Yeah.
pointed out, they do the test for the blood, and the changeling pretending to be Julian swaps the blood vials during one of the blood draws to go, Eddington's the changeling, see the blood turned to goo. If Julian had not like gotten the door open at exactly the moment that everyone was stood next to that doorway, I genuinely think this changeling's plan would have worked.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, again, so I'm gonna cast this forward a bit. What I really like about this and how it treats us as an audience is So we've been duped twice by Julian
Yeah.
until he reveals himself, only to the audience that
Yeah.
he's the changeling. And so at this point, we're like, they can never do this to us again, right?
Yeah.
Fast forward like a season, maybe two. Julian Bashir is once again a changeling and
Yeah.
is like in prison somewhere. So, like,
But again, they
I
know
really
that
like that.
you love him and you wouldn't want to suspect him, and he's already been the problem so many times.
Yeah,
It, it is like the problem you get in social deduction games. Look, that person keeps being dealt the werewolf card. Surely they're not the werewolf this time. Yeah, what are the
yeah.
chances?
I just really like that they're willing to do that in a
Yeah.
way that a lot of other writing teams wouldn't. They wouldn't. They say we can't make Bashir the guy again because he's done that twice. But they just keep going back to Bashir because he's so like, in a way, he's so inconsequential and
Mm.
unassuming because he's just this dithering British guy. Like, it just works,
Yeah.
and like again, like the door slides open, you're just like, oh god, they got me again. Like,
um. So yeah, then we get to our final act. The 10-minute countdown has been started. We're getting too close to this planet. We gotta set the self destructs and prepare for the end here. Um, and we get the showdown with O'Brien. Is like, look, I got one plan to get these force fields down and fix the ship, but it means taking all the shields down, including the one around the warp core. We're gonna have a lot of radiation going on. It's gonna be a big old problem. Um, but I'm willing to take that risk to my health to get the ship back under control. That's a problem for the changeling. We get our double Odo scenario.
yeah, and I really like that. So not only do we get the no, he's the shapeshifter moment, but we
Yeah,
also get O'Brien going, I don't fucking care. I've got
yeah,
work to do. Random guy who's sitting with me, just point the gun at both of them for a bit,
yeah,
which is like the right answer in that
yeah.
situation. It's not
I
I've got to choose. It's like, no, fuck both of
I
you.
so love that he just acknowledges I don't have the tools to answer this. I
Yeah,
it would be
this isn't my
it would
problem.
be a shot in the dark, and I'd be wasting time taking a gamble. Um, I do love that that's the solution, and the changeling just attacks. He recognizes like, okay, trying to do subterfuge. It's not going to work on O'Brien. He's not got time for my nonsense.
Yeah, I mean the only thing I'll ask you is
Mm.
because I couldn't work it out, and I don't know whether it was just camera angles and stuff, but did they slightly change Odo's makeup in in that scene so that one of them looked a tiny bit different? Or is it
I
just like a
couldn't
lighting
tell.
thing?
I couldn't
Yeah.
tell for sure. Um,
Because
that
I don't know. It's something about the eyes that was just a bit. The
I
one they looked a bit shallow. It might have just been the light,
so
but I just.
I was having a very specific experience watching that scene. I don't know if you've ever played like the video game Exit 8 or something of that nature. Those games where it's like you walk through the same space over and over, and sometimes a thing might have changed, and if so, you turn back.
Yeah, I've played a
Yeah,
game along those lines, sure.
I was having that moment of, is there a difference between these two, or am I just looking for a difference and convincing myself
Mm,
it's there?
yeah.
I couldn't quite work out which of the two was happening.
Yeah, I guess I don't know. I feel like the real Odo had like slightly more intense
Yeah.
eyes, but again, like as you say, it might just be I'm
Yeah.
looking for something.
Exactly,
It
and
might
that's
not
what
have
I
even
think
been
makes that
deliberate.
so great. Is
Yeah,
even if the two of them were identical, I thought there was something uncanny and not quite correct between the two of
mm,
them. Maybe I was just falling into the paranoia that the cast were in the episode, and if so, that's great.
yeah. I mean, that just makes this even more effective episode because, like, absolutely, it's sitting there going like, I don't actually know because because they're
Mm,
both that you don't have that cliched moment of no, I know something very specific about you. It's like they both know
yeah.
you ate stew, O'Brien. They both know you like kayaking or some shit. Like it's just really well structured,
Yeah.
um, in a way that is both very cliched but manages to have a little bit of novelty to it.
It does exactly the job it's meant to do.
Mm. And
Um,
obviously they you know the changeling changes and then does a bit of space karate on the two
yeah,
guys, including O'Brien. Tries to knock them out,
we're
and
doing
then
some goo back and forth. Who's got the more
yeah,
powerful goo? who's going to win the
Link with
CGI
me.
tug
I'm
of
going to put my
war?
hand in your chest. Like, yeah, there's a lot of.
Yeah.
It's really interesting as well because when Odo meets like the leader of the
Mm.
changelings, that's how how they have sex. Is just they just
Yes.
goo into each other. Well, I suppose that's
Yeah.
how we all have sex, but but in a CGI way. And
Yeah.
so it is very interesting to see that's also how we do everything. Like, I'm going to stop
Yeah.
you by gooing you up, and you're going to be like, oh, I can't do anything. But he's trying to
It.
persuade him to join him, and
Yeah.
then Odo was like, oh well, if I goo you, then
It.
I can best
It's
you or
yeah.
whatever.
It's a weirdly intimate and slightly uncomfortable equivalent of like your anime. You're firing your laser beams. Who's the beams are pushing back and forth. Who's got the stronger one? But with just hands in chests
Yeah,
and goo flowing.
yeah, and and I do think there's enough. I don't know, like I do appreciate that there doesn't appear to be any animosity between those two people outside of the we're just on other sides of
Yeah.
this war. Like again, there's a real sense of like struggle and frustration and tragedy in the fact that they're both fighting each other. And this guy, like when he says, "Oh, join me, and we can
Yeah.
escape together," it doesn't feel like a ploy. It feels kind of genuine.
Yeah.
That just come because that's the line that goes through
Yeah.
all of this.
I
Is that
mean,
the changelings are always trying to get Odo back?
yeah. And when
Um,
one of them says, I forget which one said it to the other, but I never wanted to harm you. I believe it. I
oh, that's Odo. Odo will
yeah.
say that because
The
like he literally throws the
yeah.
guy onto the
Yeah.
unshielded warp core, doesn't he? And he becomes
Ne
like a
yeah.
he becomes like a flaking paint
Yeah,
kind of guy.
he turns to dust and crumbles a bit.
Yeah.
But not before whispering an ominous end of season teaser phrase that's gonna get us renewed for another season. Uh
Which is obviously so. Okay, so he's killed him, and we go back to they're
yeah.
on Deep Space Nine. The crisis is averted. They get control of the ship back. They
Hmm.
don't self-destruct. And Odo's obviously grieving. They have a little meeting, and then Odo comes in and he reveals what was whispered, which was,
Yes.
"You're too late. We're everywhere," or whatever.
Yeah.
Which is obviously setting up like the next two seasons where we're going to see a
Mm.
lot of this paranoia of the changelings really are everywhere. They're all over the
Yeah.
Federation. They're all over Alpha Quadrant. So yeah, like
Mm.
again, this episode could very easily be called Groundwork Part 1 because there's so many
Yes.
things they're setting up, both very, very small character moments, but also the grand overarching narrative of
But
the next season.
if you're gonna do a groundwork episode, I think this is the way to do it because it's a well done self-contained threat episode. Like if it didn't tease the changelings are everywhere, they're in every part of government and society, and you're gonna have to root them out. If they didn't tease that, it would still be a really solid episode. But because they did the episode that they did and then put this teaser at the end, it makes you go, oh, a single changeling undetected on a ship nearly started a war. Um, and at least in that case, we knew there's only one, and it's only one of 47 people or an item in this ship. As soon as it's we don't know how many there are, and we don't know where they are. Um, it gets you thinking about like, oh, this was a really hard problem to contain. They almost had to self-destruct the Defiant. How much worse is it going to be when this spreads out to an unknown scale? Both in terms of the paranoia or breed, but also the things that could go wrong at speed. It's a great setup for a threat.
Oh, absolutely, and it's 100% a very pointed setup for Homefront, which is where they go to Earth and they have to work out how to find changelings, and it all gets very
Yeah.
fascisty. Um, but I also think it's really telling that in 45 minutes we can have an episode that is both just a
Yeah.
very good episode on its own and also sets up so much. When if you look at a lot of TV now, you get
Mm.
whole seasons that serve as just like a 10 episode cliffhanger for something that's going to come next. And I think
Mm.
this does really put a lot of that to shame. Like when you see the House of the Dragon, everyone was saying about House of the Dragon last season. House of the Dragon was like, oh, this is just setting up the next season. It's really unsatisfying. This is a really satisfying episode on its own. And then when you watch the rest of the series, it becomes even more satisfying that they've set up so
Yeah.
much in 45 minutes.
Yeah.
Like even less than 45 minutes. It's just a real tight 42 43 minutes. It's
Yeah.
great.
Once again, I cannot deny this is an episode of Deep Space Nine that did a great standalone story and also did a bunch of like really good ongoing character work for these characters, and also set up a big season threat, and did it all without feeling rushed or like it was cramped while doing it. It just that was a rock solid episode of Star Trek.
Yeah, I mean, like when I'm waiting for the point that we watch Deep Space Nine, you sit there go like, nah, I wasn't really into it because like, it does really feel like you're starting to
Yeah.
become a real convert to Deep
No,
Space
here's the
Nine. It's
thing.
really
Look,
good.
there's gonna be. I guarantee there will be some Deep Space Nine episodes, and I can't tell you which ones they'll be, but some of them will come up, and we'll watch them, and I'll go. On paper, that's a good that's a good Star Trek. Didn't work for me, and like I've not interrogated that closely why I don't gel with Deep Space Nine. I'm kind of looking forward to one of those episodes, so I have an opportunity to sit and like verbalize what it is
Well,
that doesn't click for me, but.
every time you've communicated to me what you
Yeah.
really like about Star Trek, it's always the exploration. It's always the
Yeah.
first contact. It's always exploring new ideas in new places.
Yeah.
So I imagine when we hit like one of those first 2 season episodes where they are
Yeah.
just on the space station, then that might be the one
I
that gets you a little bit like,
yeah.
nah, it wasn't quite.
I think
But
that
all
is
the ones
part of
we've
it is
watched have
just
been on the
yeah.
Defiant or doing something weird in a new culture,
Yeah.
right? So
Well,
it's been
that's it.
yeah.
I like my give me something new and weird and unexpected to sink my teeth into. I don't enjoy staying in one place and having my status quo that much. But every time that we've had a little bit of a stay in one place and status quo, it's been well handled. I can't deny it.
Well, it's because they're quite fun to be around, aren't they? At this point, like when we have the status quo, it's it's about to get shattered, and B, they're all having a nice little chat about stuff we can really relate to and enjoy hearing about,
Mhm.
including sexy baseball or whatever. Like,
Right. Is now a good time? I think we're wrapping up on this one. Is now a good time for us
oh
to
yeah,
spin the
we
wheel
got to the
and
end of the episode. Let's spin. Yeah,
yeah, give me a second to set the wheel up. Okay, let's spin
the man trap.
the
Okay.
man trap. Oh, yeah, that's a TOS. Uh, oh,
Hey! Oh no! Oh no!
oh, this is very early TNG.
Oh, it's like the
Oh,
worst episode of TNG as well.
I don't know what episode this is. I remember that the very first
Do
episode
you want me to
of
tell you what
TNG
episode
is
it is?
bad. Tell me about this episode while
This
I
is
look it
the
up.
so there's an episode in the original series which I don't know what it's called, but it's something very similar to this. But basically, everyone in the Enterprise gets kind of drunk, and then Natasha Yar and Data have sex, and that becomes like a whole thing.
Oh, this. Oh,
Yeah, it's not a good episode.
okay. Well, no, look,
But
I knew
again,
it wasn't.
oddly, TNG again. Like we're not.
Yeah, I knew it wasn't gonna be a good episode when I saw it was season one of TNG. Yikes. That'll be interesting.
It is a fun episode, Laura. I
It
think we're
won't be
going to have
good, but it might be fun.
a bit of fun with Data, like getting down and
Yeah.
dirty, and the way he approaches that. Because I remember
Mm.
very vividly how he approaches that.
I will say, at
Yeah,
some point soon, we might do a week of this where we spin the wheel until we get a season we haven't had yet. Just to
yeah.
get some. Yeah, we'll let fate decide, but
Well, look,
we'll
we've had lots of good episodes. I think this is a good
yeah.
role in terms of
Oh
giving us
no,
something a bit different.
I agree. I've been ready for for season that I like, but definitely a bad
Yeah.
episode. Um, And yeah, I think this will be good if for no other reason than I keep when we've been talking about like the newer Star Treks like Starfleet Academy, I keep talking about the fact that no Star Trek has a good first season. I'm ready for a season one episode of a Star Trek just to make my point of season one Star Trek is wobbly.
Oh, whoa, whoa, whoa. I mean, we watched a bit of season one of Enterprise, so
We did
we have had a
you're
bit of
right.
setup on that.
We did,
And I
yeah.
think both of us watched a bit more of season one of Enterprise, just as a kind of surely it can't be this bad. But
Uh,
yeah, well, because so this is episode 3 of TNG, right? So episode
yes.
1 is Encounter at Farpoint a two-parter?
I
Or does the we're
assume
going to
so.
a planet that is full of like an African tribe and we're going to get real racist about it come before this, or is that the next one?
I
So like
thought
that's
Planet of the Black People was the first episode of the season. Was
no,
the
no, no,
sli-
no. Encounter at Far Point is the first season,
Okay,
first
then
episode,
it's gonna be the
because
second
that's when we
episode.
meet
Yeah.
Q.
Okay, yeah.
But
So
I know that's like an hour and a half or something, so I don't know whether that's a two-part.
I'm finding it
I don't
now.
know.
I remember so little about that episode other than how clearly terrible it was. Um, Episode 2 of TNG was Encounter at Farpoint.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, so it's Encounter at Farpoint is a two-parter. Um, I guess that bad
So that one
episode
will
is
probably
slightly
be the
further
next one.
into
Yeah.
season one. For
But
some
yeah,
reason, I
God,
thought
season
that
one
was
is a
the
rough
very
one.
first season one episode. For some reason, in my mind.
Oh, if that was the first episode of TNG, it would not have lasted past the first episode. Like even in the 80s, that episode was very problematic. Like,
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, there we go. We've got a pretty bad episode of TNG coming up. But it'll be a fun time. I'm genuinely looking forward to having. We've had too many episodes recently where it's like that's just a good episode. I'm ready to tear into one of these.
I don't think we've really let loose about an episode, right? Like we were pretty harsh on Shockwave, the Enterprise
Yeah.
episode. We were critical but quite balanced about the Academy episode. I think we just had issues with how it was structured
We
and
had a bit of
some
a
of
laugh at
what
that
it tried to
Voyager
do.
episode with the planet of the sexy ladies.
Yeah, we weren't really harsh on it, were we? Because like
No.
that was just I think we were quite fair on how terrible that episode
I'm
was.
ready to be a little harsh at Star
Yeah,
Trek.
I
I think this
think this
might
is
be
probably
it.
going to be closer to um, the Voyager episode than
Yeah.
Shockwave, because Shockwave was genuinely terrible. And I was surprised how terrible it was. I think this is just going to be a very silly episode that is going to surprise us that this is a TNG episode when TNG does manage to keep like the goofiness to a
Indeed.
minimum.
Yeah, I think this is probably a good place for us to wrap up. Once again, Jeffrey, where can people find the stuff that you put out into the internet?
Well, I don't really put anything out onto the internet at the moment, but generally, if I ever do again, it'll be at jeffreybunting.co.uk as usual.
Lovely. And I'm at Laura K. Buzz, wherever stuff ends up on the internet. By the time that this goes up, you'll be able to watch the Accessibility Summer Showcase for 2026 if you want to go check out 45 to 50 minutes of accessible game trailers for stuff coming out this year. Go check that out over on YouTube. That will be probably in the past by now. Thank you very much, everyone, for watching. Goodbye.
Bye.